You are listening.
The classiest radio station on the air.
In the world.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Earworm Shuffle. As always, I'm Radio, and today I'm bringing you another short story that ends with a popular song title. The question is, can you guess the song title before we reveal it? This is track 14. He's getting worse. You need to come see him ASAP. Jerome reread the text from his sister and sighed, looking away from the phone out the window of the light rail. He watched as buildings and people flashed by on his transit to work. He tried to remember when was the last time he had seen his father. Lost in thought, he almost missed his stop. The announcer repeated,
14th Street,
over the loudspeaker, and he gathered his tote bag and pocketed his cell phone. Jumping down from the seat, he shuffled to the door of the train and waited for the door to open with a crowd of about 5 people. One woman, who wasn't paying attention, shifted on one foot, and then got caught off guard by the abrupt stop of the train. She brought her other foot down hard on Jerome's penny loafer, and he screamed in pain as her stiletto punched the bony top of his foot. "Shit!" he yelped as she jumped back, surprised. "Oh, I'm sorry," she said, with her back still to him, slowly turning to meet his slightly red, angry face. For a moment, she seemed lost, as when she turned around, she saw no one behind her. He cleared his throat, and she looked down. Jerome was a dwarf, standing about 3'2". The woman looked down, and he could see a mischievous smile crawl at the corners of her lips before she hid it with her hand. She said, "I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" "Fine," he said. The door slid open, and before she could say more, he slipped past her and out onto the platform. He retrieved the phone from his pocket and hit the quick dial for his sister Lacey. "Hello?" she answered sleepily. He could hear the receiver rustle against the pillows and sheets as she attempted to wake enough to speak. "It's Jay. What do you mean he's getting worse?" he said, checking the time on his wristwatch as he entered his office building and passed the security desk. "Julia called me yesterday," she said. "He won't let her change the batteries in the smoke alarm in his room. Well, I mean, Julia's son said that. He was translating. You know, Julia doesn't really speak good English," she said, more shuffling against sheets. Jesus, no wonder she could never hold down a job. It was nearly 9 a.m. and she wasn't even awake enough to answer a call. "So you want me to drop what I'm doing and go visit a man I can't stand because he won't let his Mexican nurse change the batteries in his fire detector?" He scoffed as loudly as he could, wanting his sister to hear it over the phone. Reaching the elevator bank now, he walked up to the buttons and reached out to press the up one. An older woman walked beside him and said, "Don't worry, sweetie, I'll get that," she said, reaching to press the button that was honestly almost above his reach. "Back off, Cracker," he said as he pressed the button. The woman huffed and found another elevator to go get on. "What was that?" Lacey said, waking a bit more. "Did you just call me a cracker?" "Jerome, I'm saying he's old, and it sounds like it's getting bad over there. Just go talk to him, okay?" She added a whining tone in the end of her inflection that raised his hackles a bit. But as much as his sister was a pain in the ass, she was not one to ask him to do things she didn't think were necessary. "All right, I'll take a half a day and go check in on him this afternoon." He entered the elevator and pressed the button for the top floor. As he rode up, he found himself visiting all those bad feelings and memories of his father he had tried to bury with career success and denial. His father, Albert Freeman, had been a Baptist pastor for most of his life, starting as early as 17, helping the local block preacher man exorcise demons in the corner barber shop. Growing up, Jerome resented his father because he was always using Jerome's stature and appearance as an example to his flock, saying that Jerome had been born the way he was because of the sins Albert had committed as a young man. He continued these sermons by pointing to Jerome in the front row and listing out all the hard things about Jerome's life, literally spotlighting as much as anyone could how different he was, when all Jerome wanted in the world at that young age was to feel normal. He felt a growl in his throat. Fucking old Bible thumper. The floor indicator bell rang, and his grimace evaporated into a friendly, sparkling smile as he walked into the architectural firm's office. It was a tough sell, but he was able to get his boss to give him half a day when he promised to have the new drawings for the city's convention center on his desk first thing in the morning. All 30 last-minute revisions and all. His dad lived on the southeast side of the city, and that meant 3 train transfers and a cab ride. On the last leg of the trip, Jerome sat in the back of a cab and thumbed around on his smartphone as he ignored the cabbie's continually stealing glances in the rearview mirror at him. The cab ride was about 15 minutes in total, and at the 10-minute mark, the driver, who from his accent Jerome guessed was Middle Eastern, said, "I did not know they made you people black." With other things on his mind and not wanting to waste the energy telling off the man, Jerome simply said, "Yeah, amazing what they can do these days, huh?" Left at the corner, Jerome walked up the street to his father's old brownstone, a faded behemoth of what was once a symbol of wealth, but now seemed more and more to represent a reluctance to let the past go. He pressed the doorbell button, an old-style button, black set into a brass raised circle. The sound was unique because it was made by an actual bell on the other side of the door, not an electronic chime from a speaker. An older, grizzled woman answered the door wearing a white coverall uniform and a cornflower blue apron. "Hola, Senor Jerome," Julia said as she opened the door further to let Jerome into the house. "Hello, Julia. Where is Dad?" he said, removing his sports coat and handing it to her. "Arriba en su habitación," she said, pointing up the carpeted staircase and towards his father's room. "Thank you," he said, and he walked towards the stairs. "Senor," Julia said, beckoning him. He turned back to her, already on the first step, holding onto the railing. "Estoy preocupado por él," she said, wringing her hands. "Okay, well, I'll just go check on him," he said, smiling and turning back to his task on the stairs. He heard an electronic chime as he climbed the last stair and turned to walk down the short hallway that led to his father's room. Pictures were hanging here and there, mostly of Jesus, but some of Jerome and his sister. Less than those were ones of his mother and father, both looking happy, but the repressed happy that can only come from people that have a bit too much Jesus juice in their Kool-Aid. There was a slam from behind the closed door of his father's room, and it caused a lamp on a hallway table to sway to a point of threatening an early light fixture retirement. He reached out and rightened it. Finding himself at the door, he opened it slowly, speaking as he did, as to not catch his father off guard and startle him. The man, after all, was pushing 87 years old. "Dad? Are you okay in here?" His father was seated at his desk on the far side of the room, just beyond the unmade bed in a carpet of balled-up pieces of paper with maniacal scribbling.
Quiet! I can't miss one!
The old man shrieked, without looking up from the paper he was currently writing on. "Oh, okay, I'll keep it down. Dad, it's Jerome. I came to check on you," Jerome said, now entering the room, trying his best to walk around the garbage to get closer to his father. The smell in the room was one of neglect, not bathing, and stale air. "Dad," he said, now closer, keeping his voice at just below normal tones and just above whispering.
I heard you the first time. Yes, hello, JJ. I'm very busy right now,"
his father said, pausing his scribbling to look at a stopwatch, then back to the scribbling. The nickname caught him unprepared. He hadn't been called that in a long time, and it made him feel younger than he was, like a child asking for his busy father to check the closet for monsters. Jerome stopped at the side of the desk, feeling the confused nostalgia lap at his feet, then ebb with the onset of his familiar anger. He was no child. If anything, the man in front of him was closer to one. "Lacey says you won't let Julia replace the batteries in the smoke alarm," he said, taking a firm tone with the old man. A chime rang out from the smoke alarm, almost as if it had heard someone was talking about it. Jerome followed the sound and found the unit placed just above a crucifix over the bedroom door. The old man hit a button on the stopwatch and then began to speak to himself as he furiously wrote on the paper. 6:15 exactly, 4 minutes and 36 seconds from the last ring. 436 multiplied by 72. "What is this all about?" Jerome said, taking a step closer, trying to look at what was being written on the paper. "You know we let you stay in this house because you said you were okay. Dad, this does not look okay." "It's Morse code," Albert said dismissively, not writing anymore, but seemingly reviewing what he had just written to ensure it was correct. "What is?" Jerome said, raising on his toes slightly again to try and see what was on the paper. "The alarm. It's a code. I have to get it all as it comes to get the message," the old man said, now putting the paper in front of him to the side and pulling a fresh sheet from a stack next to his right hand. "It took me a while to realize what this all was, but God came to me in a dream. He told me I would receive a message for the world. I don't know how, but I do now. I just have to get it all." He nodded to himself, as if what he had just said was the most reasonable thing in the world. "Morse code is a sequence of beeps and clicks. That alarm just rings once. How can that be anything?" "I said that too, but then I remembered 2 Peter 3:18. But, beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. See, there's a time difference. So to us, it sounds like just one beep, but it's really a sequence played out really slowly." Jerome looked at his father, who for the first time looked him in the eyes. The old man's brown eyes were set in seas of yellow, pierced with blood vines. White hairs curled from his face, and Jerome understood now that the neglect this man had underwent was not at the hands of a lazy nurse's aide, but the result of his own psychosis. "Dad, I think it might be time to take a break," Maybe get a shower and something to eat. I can't leave! I have to get the whole message! His father yelped at him. He then turned and looked at his stopwatch, then up at the alarm on the wall. On demand it rang. He repeated the process of stopping and restarting the stopwatch and writing down his findings. I am almost there. The message is almost done. God is speaking through me, son. Your old man will be the mouthpiece of God. Jerome tried one more time, leaning in and placing his hand on the crook of his father's right elbow. You just need to... Albert backhanded him with more power than it appeared he had in the entirety of his geriatric body. Jerome was knocked back several steps. He rubbed the spot on his cheek where the blow had landed, looking at the man that was his father. He wasn't shocked, not at the violence. He realized he was shocked at how he could have ever convinced himself that this man was worth his time, effort, and emotion. Even in the throes of some mental breakdown, his dad was still the same selfish, self-absorbed asshole he always was. Well, I hope you get it all before the battery dies, he said, walking away from the desk and the old man seated behind it. When the battery dies, the message is done, said Albert, laughing to himself. Jerome walked to the bedroom door and let himself out. Closing it behind him, he saw Julia was standing in the hallway, looking at him expectantly. He won't let me replace the battery either. He says it's conveying a message from God, he said, walking the several feet of distance to where Julia stood. She looked down at him with sad, watery eyes. He knew she had always liked his father. They had a special relationship, and the breakdown must have been really hard on her. You've helped others in the past, right? What do you think this is? Have you seen this kind of thing before? He said, not expecting any kind of real answer. Julia looked at him for a long moment, as if trying to piece together the English in her head as an actual sentence. She then nodded and said, Sí, is living la vida loca.